So hi, and welcome to Money Stories, a podcast where we interview fellow Catholics and Christians so we can all learn from their personal money stories. I'm Caitlin Cano, and I'm a wife, mom, financial counselor, and student of all things stewardship. And we actually have a surprise this week. We are so blessed for having a summer co-host, and her name is Diana Rojas. And you may remember Diana from her money story, where she spoke about how she teaches her students to, what's the program? I'm sorry, it's My Classroom Economy?
Yep.
All right, so you use My Classroom Economy to teach financial wellness, and it was something that you learned in childhood as one of your values that was focused on your faith, and now you're paying it forward. And we are so blessed that Diana agreed to be our summer co-host. Welcome, Diana.
Hi, Caitlin. I'm so excited to be here. Like you said, yes, I am a fourth grade math teacher and a children's book author, and I'm a parish missionary. So I do young adult ministry in parishes here in Miami, and I'm super excited to be your co-host and get started on this journey with you. So can't wait to begin with you.
This is going to be so much fun. And what's so interesting is that we just started this podcast right when the pandemic started. I think John and Evelyn, our founders, were the first guests, and then we went right into Danielle Bean. And we were talking about financial wellness and talking about everything else, not knowing the pandemic was going to have the impact that it had. And it's just amazing. I feel like the Holy Spirit's been involved in the timing of this, and letting this be something that has been, I think, hopeful to Catholics to see that we can unite our faith with our finances. And the podcast has been surprisingly really well received. But with that comes people reaching out, offering suggestions and what they want to see with it. And I was a Marine wife. One of our mottos is Semper Gumby. So I'm willing to be flexible. And one of the things that we're asking for is wanting it to feel more like a show, and also suggesting we bring on a co-host. And I'm just so blessed that you said yes. It was like I proposed to you the other day. It was so funny.
It was awesome. I'm so excited that you asked me. I was totally caught off guard. So perfect proposal. I wasn't expecting it. It was beautifully done. Can't wait to get started on this marriage with you.
Yes. Yeah. No, this is great. And I really feel like you were just placed in my heart for a reason. You were the first person that came to mind when that was suggested. So I'm just so blessed. So thank you for agreeing and saying yes. She said yes. All right. So this week's topic is actually a little bit more of a serious topic. So we're going to change tone a little bit. But we're talking about the financial implications of infertility. And I just pulled these statistics quickly. I'm not quite sure anecdotally how this is going to affect couples, but from more of a macro perspective, 1 in 6 families will struggle with infertility, and 59%, they'd say that cost is a barrier to proceeding with medically necessary treatment they needed. So infertility is something that's a very personal topic. I'm sure a lot of couples find it a very personal thing, but it's also going to have financial implications on their household. So to help us talk about that topic is Whitney Allen. I'm going to go ahead and bring Whitney up. Here she is. Hi, Whitney.
Hello.
And hi. So Whitney is the founder of Healing Hopeful Hearts at Cathedral of Christ the King in Lexington, Kentucky. And it's a ministry to assist Catholic couples dealing with the stress and grief of infertility, miscarriage, and childlessness. So welcome, Whitney. We appreciate you coming on to talk about this topic.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Yeah. And you've started this ministry. You have been a blessing to so many people. It's such a beautiful ministry. And I feel like this topic is one that couples avoid because it's something they want to not deal with until they realize they're dealing with it in real time. And I don't know if that's what you experience with the couples that you work with. And I know it's a very personal and sensitive topic, but I think it's important to talk to the practicality of it, which is finances. And before we jump into that, can you tell us what the infertility options are that we're going to be focusing on today?
Sure. From a Catholic perspective, the main one is NAPRO, which is natural procreative technologies. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then more mainstream and what people are more associated with is IUI and IVF, which are both assisted options where you have medical assistance that's a little bit more invasive.
So you did mention natural procreative technology, NAPRO, which is something that I have heard of in my research as far as women's health, but can you talk a little bit more about that and what exactly that is and how that works as far as being an option for couples and for young adult women or any women who are trying to conceive or just get in line with their women's health?
Sure, and I'm by no means an expert in any of these. It's more just starting the conversation and starting to educate people that there are options that are in line with our faith, that are actually significantly less expensive than the mainstream options. And NAPRO is more healing focused. It tries to get to the heart of where the fertility issue lies. It is focused on women, and fertility issues can be undiagnosed, and they can also equally be on the male side. But specifically with NAPRO, it is more focused on women, their health, their healing, identifying what their underlying barriers are, and working towards healing those things so that you could restore a more natural state of fertility. And where the IUIs and in vitros are, they just kind of want to get right to the result, and it's not necessarily healing your body or identifying what might be causing the issues.
So that kind of topic, I guess my question would be for you is like, when is the right time to talk about that? Because I'm single, I'm not getting married anytime soon. Like, should I be discussing that? Should I be looking into that option now so I can figure out if I have any concerns, or is it maybe better to wait until I'm dating and married and in that process of trying to get pregnant before I research something like NAPRO?
Well, I think it's always important, especially as women, to be in tune with our health. And if you are having those open conversations with your doctors now, you can start to identify, what is and what isn't normal, and also identifying where your doctor is, in line with treatments or, different types of solutions if there are some issues, because most doctors don't know the Catholic teaching. They don't know NAPRO. They don't know, how to navigate somebody who wants to pursue fertility, health and treatments within their faith. And so having that conversation early, I think, and starting to identify those even before you're married, certainly recommend it. It's something that's going to most likely come up at some point in your marriage as you pursue a family. And so I don't think it's ever too early to be paying attention to those things and knowing what your options are.
Yeah. I think I'm going to continue doing some research. I like the sound of the NAPRO.
And Whitney, on Money Stories, we've had a few guests, actually several guests, that they beautifully talk to the financial consequences of having a family. But with that also comes non-financial costs, right? So if the couple decides to let one parent stay home, now we have loss of income, and there's other costs that are rather than just dollars and cents and writing checks out for expenses. What are the non-financial costs of infertility? What can a couple expect if this is something they're walking through?
Well, there's definitely an emotional toll, that you're going to deal with from if you're talking about struggles that people are going to deal with, you're dealing with a lot of emotion. It's raw, it's hard. Nobody likes to talk about it. You're dealing with managing expectations, your own expectations, your spouse's expectations, your family's expectations. And that can kind of avalanche into a lot of different things as far as frustrations in your marriage or challenges in your career. I kind of personally faced a lot of those things, the negative costs while navigating infertility. The hard costs are easy to see and certainly add up between tests and procedures and medications, even if you're doing it through NAPRO or it can still become pretty expensive, but the costs that aren't the financial ones are probably the most challenging for an individual to deal with.
Yeah. You had mentioned, we had the opportunity to speak to you, which was so awesome. And your story is, for me, it really hit home, and it was just so beautiful and so empowering to know all the things that the way that you handled it and managed your expectations and and the things that you're doing for other people. Would you mind telling our listeners a little bit more about your story and your foundation that you started, the Healing the Hopeful Hearts, and just how that came about and where you're at with that?
Sure. Yeah, you certainly didn't start off inspiring. My husband and I got married. We were 29, and we started trying for our family a year later at 30. And I had fallen away from the church when I was 16. So when we got married and we were starting for our family, we weren't practicing the faith. And I had been away for a long time, and went through, within a year, quickly realized that we were going to have to approach some fertility options. And we went through years of tests and procedures and medications. And I was actually adding it up in my head before we got on. And it was close to $20,000 that we ended up spending. We never chose to do IVF. But we did other procedures, and they all added up. And even the ones that were, more natural were still expensive when you're dealing with, medications and testing and timing. And so when we did get to a point where we realized, we were kind of at the end of the road as far as options were concerned, and we were making choices as a couple and what we wanted for our family, for he and I. We made the ultimate decision to remain childless, being open to life. But through that whole process, I became very angry and jealous and depressed and alienated myself. My career was struggling. My marriage we were good, but it was a very sad time in our marriage. I pulled away from all of my friends and family, and had allowed the grief of it to completely alienate me. And over the course of those years, I'd also had a miscarriage. And so it was very, pretty much what I would consider rock bottom as far as from an emotional state. And it's what brought me back to the church, because I had nowhere to go. And I didn't want to continue to live my life the way that I was living it in this state. And so I went back to the church and threw myself back into the faith and fully embraced everything, and just found so much joy and healing in the church that I wanted to share that with other people. I wanted to share with people that, there's joy on the other side of what you think your expectations are, of what you think your life is supposed to be, because it's not about what you think it's supposed to be. It's what God's plan is for you. And Healing Hopeful Hearts came about. I was at church one day, and I was flipping through the bulletin, and I saw all of these options for people, people who were divorced, Catholics who, maybe are returning from abortion, or, they're single, all these different things, senior Catholics. And I wasn't there. I didn't see me. I didn't see a young married woman who went through infertility and a miscarriage and was living a childless life in a Catholic church. I wasn't there, and I wasn't represented it. And it kind of hurt, and it felt like I was a little bit lost again. And so we started doing some research to see what options there were for women, and there really weren't very many. So I worked with several people at the parish to start to brainstorm and pull together some ideas. And so that's how it came about, was just that, wanting to see myself, knowing that I wasn't the only one in those pews that suffered one, if not all three of those things, knowing that probably every other woman in that church had had a miscarriage, or had struggled to get pregnant, or, was single and hadn't formed their family yet. And, maybe that's a point in their life where they're starting to grieve that. And those women needed to be represented as well. And their men as well. They grieve this too. And I think we don't give men enough credit in this arena, because they also have to carry this cross with us. So that's how it started. We launched it as a series. And so it's very intimate. Sometimes it's one-on-one, sometimes it's one person, sometimes it's one couple. And I do it as a 5 to 6 week series. So it's, people can come, they can learn, they can share, they can grieve. And our ultimate goal is to provide the support and the resources for them to be able to start to move forward in their healing process. Currently, unfortunately, because of COVID, but then also some other delays, we weren't able to get our series up and running this year yet, but we are working on doing a digital version for people that we're working on getting that out later this summer.
That's just, it really makes me so proud of you and so happy to know that there's someone who's speaking on this and educating other women. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us and with the women that you share them with. I know that's not easy or fun sometimes, but I really think that you're making a huge difference. So thank you so much for starting that, even though I'm not a part of it. That's super awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a journey. It's tough, but it's also such a blessing. And, so much of it is education and educating couples, educating the priests, the deacons, about helping women and men navigate these areas.
It's so beautiful, Whitney. And you had spoken about feeling the calling because you didn't see the resources, you didn't see the peer group, and you took the initiative and you created the peer group and you created, I'm sure, the access to some of these resources. And I'm wondering, what can a Catholic couple do? I'm just going to create, a make-believe Catholic couple. They're going into their doctor. The doctor's not familiar with our Catholic teachings, and the doctor wants to push what they know or what they feel works. What resources can that couple pull in to bring into their doctor's office to start the conversation and let the doctor know, this is how I want to proceed with growing my family, should the Lord choose us to be blessed with children or not? So what resources, what can they do to bring into that doctor's appointment?
Right. It's tough because I think the most doctors are going to put you on that path of, this is the fertility treatment path you're going to take. And it's a little bit like like a it's the word I'm trying to think of. Sorry, this escaped me, but they just kind of take you down this path, and everybody gets the same pattern. You go for this test, that doesn't work. You go for this test, that doesn't work. And now you go for IVF, and here's the specialist, and they sort of shuffle you through the process. And it's kind of fast and emotional. And if you're in dealing with infertility and have been trying for some time, you can become kind of blinded by the desire and the desperation to build your family. And so I think that's it's kind of the bear trap for a lot of couples that maybe didn't know to ask the questions or didn't know to say, maybe if I go look here, the Pope Paul VI Institute is where NAPRO comes from. And so I'd encourage people to research that, to educate themselves about the Catholic teaching of fertility treatments and, where it's okay and where it's not. There's about 100 facilities, I believe, around the country that do that specialize with NAPRO. So it's definitely not something that is probably in everybody's town, but I would encourage Catholic couples to educate themselves on the teaching of the Church and the statistics of success through utilizing a system like NAPRO, because maybe it takes a little bit longer, but it's also a lot less expensive. Most likely insurance will cover it because it's dealing with actual medical conditions that you're trying to heal. And it's in line with our faith. So I would encourage people to have that first, kind of have that education first. And then as far as with their having the conversation with their doctors, just being very upfront with them about what you are and aren't willing to do if you were pursuing this in lines with the teachings of the Church. And some of those doctors aren't going to be able to help you because they don't know. Not that they don't have the the knowledge or the expertise as a medical professional, but they're not going to know what options a practicing Catholic would want to pursue.
Awesome. Well, that's a really good first step, I think, for the couple to know to use those resources. And we're going to put them into the notes of both the podcast and also our YouTube channel. So if you want to look into the description, we'll have some information and links that couples can look into and decide if this is how they want to prayerfully consider growing their family moving forward, and hopefully take some prayer into consideration either way. But now they kind of know a good first step, especially financially, that this may be something they want to look into. Great.
Definitely. And in my parish, the one thing we started doing with H3 is I come in during the marriage prep classes and speak to the engaged couples to talk to them about having kind of a baseline conversation about, what if, what if we're the statistic? Where are you as a couple as far as what are you going to do? Or, what are you going to pursue? How far does this go? How are you going to do it? Is adoption an option, which has its own financial implications? So a lot of baseline conversations that can kind of be had at that stage, just to bring to light that we're kind of fed as a society that this is what we should expect, and we're you get married and you have babies and that's the way it is and everybody's happy. But the reality is that people are going to struggle, and some options aren't going to be options for various reasons, whether it be financial or faith-based or both. And I think it's important to start having this conversation more so that it becomes at least something that people think, oh, no, I remember that. I've heard that before, and not this complete and utter shock when you're in what might be one of the rawest moments of your life.
Whitney, you're a blessing. This has been amazing. And I think it's been so insightful. And you have, I'm sure, spiritual children who benefited from all of your grief being used for the good and being used for the Holy Spirit's message. So thank you so much for what you do. We appreciate you. And and like I said, we'll put those resources in the description so people can use them and have access to them. And we're also going to put the link to your ministry as well. So can someone get in contact with you if they want to have a conversation?
Yes, I can. You can certainly share my email or my phone. My phone number is also on the ministry information, so they're welcome to reach directly to me.
Thank you, Whitney. We appreciate you, and God bless.
Thank you both.
For more information about Compass Catholic Ministries, including the various Bible studies and services that we offer, please visit compasscatholic.org. If you enjoy Money Stories, please share it with a friend. You may also like Compass Catholic's other podcast, Manage Your Money God's Way, available wherever you get your podcast. If you have any comments about today's show or suggestions for future shows, please email us at info@compasscatholic.org. Thanks for listening, and God bless.